Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name's SGN aka Chris Armstrong. This is the PlayStation 2020 maintenance and thermal paste upgrade. So just where I'm pointing here, that's where the CPU GPU is basically indicated, right in the depths and the bowels of this thing. Now you're going to need to flip that over later, so it's a big pain in the butt, but don't worry about that. Anyway, turn this thing around. At the back you can see basically where the airflow comes out. That's the most important part, good clean airflow, and the only way to get that is by upgrading that thermal paste, remove it, upgrade it to Arctic Silver. So to begin, we need to focus on this side cover, but before we do that, we're looking at what you need. You need more paste. You can use your cheaper PC one, or the middle one there, the small one, that's Arctic. Of course, Zippo lighter fluid is the really cheap, easy way to remove old thermal paste. Take a thermal towel and basically give it a clean up as we go through, you'll see that, and of course put your Zippo fluid on that and it with it. Now I'm just pointing out here about the top cover case. Some people use fingers to sort of push it and pry it. Now you can do that, but with mine it's a bit more stubborn, so I try to use my palm of hand. And as I go along to do that from corner, it clicks out nice and snugly. Yours no different. So don't worry, don't panic, take your time with this and it will come apart nice. Now if you lose any screws or anything with this, these things are pretty solid, so don't wash loads of screws in this, as I've taken it apart so many times for multiple hard drive upgrades, which is why, as you can see, the screw I'm indicating to, this is the PlayStation 4 screw. It has the little PlayStation 6 square, circle, triangle, an X, and that usually hold down the hard drive. Mine's missing because I've already upgraded that, but don't worry, we'll go over that in our next video with the 4TB full size hard drive upgrade. Anyway, just remove this thing on your one, and then after that we're going to be moving the rear 3 screws. We'll be getting into that in a second. With this, it's advised to remove the hard drive. Just give it a little bit of a wiggle with your fingers and then just push and prod it out. You don't use any tools with this because you don't want to risk damaging hard drive. And again, as always, take your time. Okay, so next thing we need to do is actually to flip the PlayStation over and then remove a couple of screws. So just turn your PlayStation around once it's flipped over. Focus on these 3 screws at the back of the PlayStation. Remove those in turn, and then we'll move on to basically removing this this top cover here. And now it's going to be really important if you have a nice multi-tool set available. You're going to need a flat type, a star drive, and of course a cross type. Those are the screws that we're going to basically be having to remove throughout the process. So just have those to one side, and as you undo all of your screws, try and put them neatly to one side so you don't lose them, and maybe put them in different areas on your table or your surrounding area so that that they're grouped. Take your time. So next what you're going to want to do is remove these 3 screws. Use your fingers to just pop up the back there, pull it away and lift it up. Push the PlayStation away if you can, and now we can just inspect the top of the casing. It's quite dirty, you can't see on the camera until I wipe with my finger. Look at that, that is grimy. Anyway, use your kitchen towel, or if just like me you have some wet wipes handy, just grab those things. Give it a good thorough cleaning, and it's important that you do take your time with this because with a smooth shiny surface, dust actually finds it difficult to cling to, but a dirty surface, dust clings to it like crazy, and that's why there's build-up inside these machines. So that's why it's important to take the entire machine apart instead of other tutorials where they simply show you taking it apart in less stages, so you just focus on the points you're looking at. As indicated there, spin your fan around, checking the bearing is smooth and the fan therefore doesn't need replacing. If it grinds a bit, suddenly that fan needs replacing. That's pretty easy at this stage. Now this little circuit board has 3 screws. You're going to need to remove those, and of course the couple of tabs around it, 5, 6 tabs there. And they all come apart slightly differently. Now at the back here is your power pack, and it's got 2 securing tabs. You just want to go and remove those 2 things, put them to one side. For me, in this video, I actually don't put them back towards the end, so you might want to look back at this video. The reason for that is I take this quite a lot, but I put them back in for this video so you could recognize them easier. Don't worry about that. Now that's your power input at the back. Remember that for locating power pack back into place. And of course we're going to focus now on the next stage. Now just taking the correct tool here, we're going to just start removing the next few again, take your time with this, please don't, and remember to group them so it has the right screws back in the right place, unless, like me, you don't actually like putting all the screws back, because I take this apart often, that I actually need to speed things up, otherwise just as long. So this can take like over an hour if you're going slow, but for me it's so it's like every few minutes. I don't remember the process quickly, so it's easier if I can just hit the few screws in and then put them back. It just makes it less painful. So as you can see here, I'm now removing the screws and onto the tab. This tab is basically a pulled tab. Some of them you basically put your fingernail and it lifts up and it just pops out. Other ones you have to wiggle them a bit, and others you need the little blue tab part. You might be able to see just there, like this little one here. See, that one's difficult, so just move away, go try something else, and then back to it sometimes. Otherwise you find yourself getting a little frustrated. You really don't want that. With this particular tab, it was a right pain in my beep, and yeah, this moment. So again, I move on to a tab. You might find the same thing. If there is a bit of a struggle, lift the board out. Basically, try everything that helps to make the process easier for you. So for me, yeah, I'm just work these things until they come out. Now you might think, but the space that you have and tools that you have can really make the difference. But again, taking time, you will be able to remove all of these things as I can clearly show you here. So I'm just going to get this and wiggle it around a little bit, and just this tiny bit of movement there really helped me, there we go, just to pull it out. And you don't want to put much force on these things. I'm taking the time, because once these tear, almost impossible to get a replacement unless you basically have a broken one. Now they all popped out really quickly, really easily, and just with this one again, that one's just a pop-up tab. That's why the first so easily. So once that's all basically done, just move them away nice. Check the condition as I'm just doing it, and I'm just rechecking that I've not bent something, just pushing it back down, and that's all fine. Remember, check everything twice and it should just fine. Now flipping it over, there is actually another connector that's more of a traditional connector, and I'm just loosening it up there a little bit with the screw, and then I can move in and freely remove that with my hand. Just remove it with my hand, because I'd actually have to use excessive. Just use the tools that you have at hand, and again, take your time. Now I've just the DVD drive there. In the video, I actually did this mistake. I had no intention of taking it apart, but because it had been many months since I'd done this, it's probably a happy incident. So just underneath here, you can see just moving them around and such. Let's say you have a DVD side of this. You can actually remove this casing. So you follow the video point, remove the casing, and I'm not fully removing that because I didn't want anything to like part or anything, but actually I'm not showing in the edit. It did. All the gears came out and I had to put it all back together, but fine. But for the sake of this video, yeah, you might just need to move the cogs and things, and if you had a DVD in there, as I know show you in the video, it should come out nicely. Again, take your time. I cannot say that enough throughout this process. Take your time. And it also doesn't hurt to record yourself while you do this. So take your phone out. You know, use one of those little mobile phone stands. Have it. If not, lean it up against something. Even if you hold it badly, it doesn't matter. It's going to help you in putting back your PlayStation, because there are multiple different models of different year where there's imprints and such. And yeah, it's just going to help you with your pros, just in case you don't want to lose any screws like me. Onto the battery here. Anyway, it should just lift up now. It was particularly stiff. I didn't show that part, but it should come out as nicely as it just did there. Now, remember, you can actually use a bit of cloth or something, or maybe to it, or me. I have this camera thing here called a rocket. It's like a little blower for camera equipment. It's like $5. Online, you just give it a round. Maybe you can even get some PC air, but for the sake of cost and ease, blow into it. Same thing with the internals of the PlayStation, but again, we now need to move on cleaning this internal part, and you'll see how dirty this is. It's quite shocking. It looks nice and silvery to you on camera, but as I turn the cloth over, it's really, really dirty and quite shocking. So just take it in, you don't want to disturb anything, you don't want to break any cables, look inside, inspect cooling fins there, inspect those, see if they're up, whether it needs blowing out or not. Mine was quite clean, but however, check absolutely everything. Also, move on to the little cable left here. You've got one there, which is also a little a little sort of push-in type. You can just pop that out with your fingers, remove the little ribbon cable there, and of course keep it together and put it to one side with your sword. You next have like a little GPU one. That's right here, and that basically is like a little Lego. It will just pop off, and that's your Wi-Fi. It allows you to wirelessly connect to your router. So just pop nicely, no force needed. Put it to one side. Now, basically, again, we're just gonna flip this thing over, and we're on the case. This is the top of the case. It comes off camera because I really struggled with it. You're probably gonna struggle with your own if I missed. But yeah, I've got a couple of tabs here. I've moved back to more, and I'm just gently prying, and there one or two might go pop, pop, and then you move to the next section and actually click back in. Take your time. It will pop off as you've just pretty easy, very little force needed. If you break any, don't stress too much. You could always use a bit of double-sided tape if needed. But again, even this thing, get your cloth, get your paper towel, your wet wipe, and go over it. There is a lot of dirt. You may not be able to see it on camera, but I assure you there. And anyway, now put that to one side, and we can now move over to the next stage. Next, I want you to flip the PlayStation over, and now you can see the skeleton case as you were. And this is the leaf spring holding down the CPU/GPU. You've got two screws there, they're compression screws, you don't want to over tighten them later on. But before we tackle that, we want to actually take the case apart further. Now pay attention to all of the screws around the outside, and just down on the bottom right there's a little cable. Remember to just disconnect that before you get started. And as you go through this, just your time. Obviously, we're speeding through it here in the video, so you don't have to waste your time. But just take your time, put them together, and I've actually done this in order, kind of like out of Lara Croft's movie with Angelina Jolie, and then of course she ends up smashing. Don't smash your PlayStation. So just take them all apart, group them together, and if you need, take a little picture, and then later on you can just move those to once. Lifting it up, you can now see that it will come away from PlayStation. Take your time with this. There'll be some pop-in and such. At the back, it's actually caught on some of the ports. Do not worry about that. Again, just sort of work with it. Work with the plastic. It will come away from the cage. There we go. So I'm just using a tool here just because I was having trouble. You're probably going to have a lot more trouble than me because I've taken mine apart several of the plastics and a little bit malleable. But it will come apart, as you can see here. Okay, so it's clearly coming apart much better, and it's lift out. There we go, I'm flipping it around a little bit, and it's come apart nicely. No real energy in pulling that part. Now, flipped it over, we can see the fan, the inside of the fan, with the top of the cooling system, but we're going to focus on the fan now. Remember, we want to clean this whole area again, and then we're going to look at removing the fan. A wet wipe, I'm flying through this for the sake of editing. And once that's all nice and clean, remember, get that dust, it will build up. But once it's nice and clean, we're going to remove this fan, and we're going to focus on cleaning all of the fan. We're going to use both wet wipe and like a cotton bud. You can use your typical ear cotton bud, or you can use like the baby ones, which are a bit fatter and fluffier. It just depends what you have at hand. But anyway, before you do that, there's three screws on them. There's three locating nugs. Make sure you get the right screw bit. It's actually cross type, so everybody has this one. And just take your time again, unscrew them, and then in the right place. I'll just put this over the other group. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So just take your time with this. We're going to unscrew them now. And as it's going through there, I'm just put them all next to each other. Fantastic. Now we can actually lift and away. There's actually a little slidey bit there I'm just pointing to. Make sure that actually goes in between the two pieces. And flip it over, and you can see my fan is actually very dirty for a PlayStation I haven't used all that much. My house is cleaned daily Here in Singapore, we have made our houses incredibly clean. However, it was still very, very dusty. Internal area of the fan, and now we're going to focus our time just away into the fins, in the direction of the fin, moving away from itself. Just, you know, move it with your thumb. Keep cleaning all of the top surface. After you do that, we're going to want to use something like the Q-tip, the bud. And again, if you have a little blower, use that. If not, pucker up and blow as hard as you can in between those fins, and shove away all of the stuff in between. Really take your time with this, and once you're happy, you'll see it's actually quite clean. But now we're going to go down deep in between it with the Q-tip, as I've done a couple of times before. And take your time. We're speeding through this for the sake of it again. And yeah, don't forget to focus on the bottom part. That Q-tip there, that is seriously dirty. And that on the fan, there's a tiny amount. All of this slows down airflow moving out back through your fins and of course out of your PlayStation. These things do get hot. Now relocate it in between the two metals, and there's three little lugs sticking up that will help it to sit down nicely. You can't misalign this thing. And put your 3 screws back in, and you should be pretty happy by the end. Okay, great. So now your fan and your inner case cleaning is done. So that can go off to one side, and we can continue to move. So now you can actually see we've got the main cooler here. That's on the back side of the GPU/CPU. This is the leaf spring with the 2 securing screws. You're going to want to take your cross type and just release these nice and slowly, one side after the other, and basically just releases tension on the left and then right side. Always do this, and remember to do it, more importantly, when you're actually redoing it. So when you've put the paste back on, you're putting it all back together, it's very, very important to even screw one side a little bit and the other side. If you don't do this, you'll actually end up with your CPU mounted like slant, and no heat will be transferred, and it will overheat and die within minutes. It's extremely important that you actually pay attention to this, and yeah, and just don't overdo it. Just little by little, and you'll be absolutely fine. And of course, as you screw it back down, when you put it back there, it will evenly spread out the paste, and you'll see what I mean when we actually apply only a bead to the center instead of it all over the place. This way, it fills in all the little micro cracks and crevices that actually are nat fault within the casting and making of the materials. Alright, next what we're going to want to do is actually grasp the two things with your fingers. We're going to be able to flip it over now nice and firmly, just inspect everything's okay, and we're going to pull this cage away from the motherboard. This is basically the back side of the cage. Just lift it up there and it will come away nice and carefully. Okay, so the black pads you can see there are like DRAM thermal pads. We're going to clean those later and apply some thermal paste, but everything seems fine, so flip it over, and we're going to try and separate the part now. So the cooler, just grab that firmly, it's nice and secure. Hold your circuit board, of course, watch the little cable there, and it will come up nicely. And we can actually take a look at everything here. If we just look, we can actually see we need to clean all of this silver part. Thermal paste needs to come off of that part as well, and that's disgusting and dirty, as you can see from my finger, like black. That's not right. Same thing on the GPU/CPU finally exposed. Both things need to be thoroughly. Now that's some typical thermal paste for PCs and such, but this is gold standard. That's called Arctic Silver. Arctic Silver. It's very small, but you need almost none of this stuff, and that will go on to just the circuit board part, and the silver part will be compressed to it, and that's where it will get its coverage, so do not worry about that. This part is obviously focused on the cleaning. Now just take dry paper towel or whatever you have at hand on the paper towel, because it actually leaves very little lint, the furry stuff, so that's why I use paper towel. And just keep removing all of this harder old stuff until it's all gone. Now once it's all gone, then we can take some paper towel with the Zippo lighter fluid and just slowly but slowly remove all of the gunk there. Now if you get some of the lighter fluid all over this thing, it will evaporate, that's fine, but onto the circuit boards may find the Zippo fluid corrosive. That's why other people advise it. But of course, if you're on a budget, just take your time, be careful, apply a towel, and only apply it to the surface you need. As you can see, the amount I just squirted on. But when it comes to the circuit board, just be careful you don't really get it onto the board, and you should be absolutely fine. This is unfortunately at your own risk, but yeah, it should. You can buy proper liquid from from PC and such, but you're fine with this stuff. This costs like $2 or $3, $4. Whereas the PC fluid for circuit boards is, potentially up into a $20 range unless you get it from online. You're waiting a month. Now the cooler, just re-inspect that thing, give it a little blow through with, either your lips, just pucker up, or if you have one of these camera squeezers, just give that a nice strong blow, and it will be absolutely fine. Remember, inspect, double check and clean, it'll be absolutely fine. Now going through the main circuit board, we're going to focus on the GPU/CPU, get your paper towel, and we're going to want to just wipe all of that away. Now what I did is I actually folded this thing up a couple of times, ripped it apart, so I'm working with a smaller towel, because you don't want to you don't want to be using a large piece and then wiping it onto something else, because you can't see what's going on under. So I've ripped up into a small piece, it's in a little square, I keep folding it over, I apply directly to the paper towel this time, the light, and I'm just going over the metal parts. Now after I've basically got all of the main thick gunky part off, then I turn it over and I focus on the part. Here we go, you can see I'm actually in between the GPU, CPU and the outer ring, and then I just keep reapplying liquid to the paper towel, and I'm going over it. Now we're looking at the top side of the modules, and I'm just giving those a little bit of a clean. Here's your thermal paste. I'm using the silver again. Can't stress enough, this actually has real silver in it, and silver is the most conductive metal on Earth, next to carbon, which is the future thing. But hey, if you could buy that, you'd probably be an millionaire like Elon Musk, because now it's expensive to produce. Anyway, start with just a small bead, as you just saw me put there, and I'm doing the same, going around all of the DRAM modules. I'm just putting a little bit on. Some of these actually have like little thermal pads on them, but since mine are a little bit old and crusty, I might just put it onto it, leaving it seated, or if they're moving, I'll remove them on the bottom, put them on the top, and then just put it back. There we go, so I'm doing it just there now. But the most important part is obviously a tiny little ball that I just did. It's sort of like a pea size, small pea in the center of the CPU/GPU. I keep saying on this unit it's actually combined, and then put it away. You need to use very of this stuff. Alright, now once that's done, we're basically going to need to put that back together. So I guess that's what we'll be doing next.
Fantastic, great. That's pretty much that. You can always save this for further maintenance, just put it on there, put it to one side, and that's pretty good. So now what we need to do is we actually need to put everything back together, and that's what we'll do next.
Okay, so now what we're going to do
the next thing
is we now need to place this back onto the cooling pad. The best way to do this actually is to take this to one side
of the casing. So move the circuit board to the side, bring the cooling part back in. And
this is where the
you want to make sure that you can match everything.
Turn that around
so just rotate it around. There we go. So I'm just doing that on the camera.
All you have to do is match
and then we're going to
with
grab
the
the CPU.
So just do this very slowly,
you can actually port openings at the back
like
of that.
this.
That's the part you need to pay attention. So make sure that when it's coming down, it actually kind of needs to go into a bit of an angle towards the back. They need to slot into the back part. That's such an aggressive angle. They need to kind of fit in like that, and then it needs to sit down nicely, and then all of the paste will be squished, hopefully very evenly, and that's only as it's sitting under its own weight. Flip it over and then screw down the cushion leaf spring. Now just take your time. There's a lot of pinging and pulling and such at the back, and then at the front there's a port here as well. It's a little bit of out of focus there for you. I'm just taking a moment just because I'm flipping it around, and you just want everything to be as level as possible. Now this isn't ideal the way PlayStation's done this, but usually when you're remounting that uses thermal paste, it's naturally very level and very flat. Unfortunately, because of the warts and things, it has to be sort of angled, and it will be squished, squashed, and it's a pain in the butt, for lack of a better way of putting it. Anyway, I'm just taking a moment off camera because it's easy to do a little bit close to me. But now I've done that, just make sure the little cables like the one I wiggled
so I just had
is
this
fine, mine snagged a little bit. Make sure the ports are all aligned nice and it's flat. I'm actually holding it firmly with my hand.
So when they go in, it goes in
I'm just checking all the ports are basically in on the back, front side. All of the screws are basically lined. I can see all the way through.
As long as all of your
double
screw holes line up,
absolutely
you should be pretty
You should do the same for good time. And
so
just apply pressure there,
like the
as I'm doing with my thumb and my fingers,
keep a little bit of
pressure
here.
Down.
You don't
That's
squeeze
all
hard,
level and lined and everything. It's as good as I can get it. Then we're grabbing the other trigger, basically align that, and we want to make sure all the screws are nicely aligned. I've turned it around, and oh, there we go, perfect. So I'm going to try and plop that down nicely onto the circuit board. And when I'm happy the screws are aligned with the GPU, I'll go ahead and grab the lead spring. Now with the lead spring, make sure of one thing, that the spring is actually up, like a normal V. When you write a V, it's, you know, the facing upwards and the single point downwards. Same thing with this here. So I'm just showing you here, that's now that's the right configuration, because obviously we're pushing, the spring's pushing against this in order to create pressure. But we don't want to have too much pressure, otherwise all you're going to do is all of that thermal paste out from the seat, and it's going to end up all over the circuit board, and there's just a disaster waiting to happen.
This is not the
so as we screw these things, all I've done is just gently, lightly screwed them in. Basically, it can take a couple of turns to even get it threaded. Once it's threaded, I'm going to go from side to side to side, and I'm not tightening it, I'm actually screwing it down before it gets tight. So at this point, it's pretty much starting to get tight. I'm just going to keep going one to the other until it basically feels really tight, but not tight. So what is tight? Well, when you can turn it more. Okay, we don't want it to the point where we can turn it no more. We just at the point where we feel a good amount of resistance. For this, I would basically sort of test and if you've not done this sort of thing before, but you don't want to over tighten it, otherwise pancaking. All of that lovely thermal paste won't be able to help you. So now we've done that, we can flip it over, we'll look, inspect it, and look, that is beautiful, clean, everything has come for us. So now we can actually move on to the next stage.
That's pretty much so. Okay, alright, that's good. That's nice and secure there. Now we can go back to flipping it over, nice and slowly and gently, and that is pretty much secure on there. So next, we'll look at moving on to the next part.
So the next stage is basically going to be placing this circuit board and cooling system back into the main casing, starting off with the fan section. It's one of the most important sections. Ensure that it's all, again, very, very clean. We're going to lift up the circuit board, make sure it's rotated and located correctly. You can always check this with all of the ports. There's going to be cutouts in the plastic, so rotate it, make sure, check your cables on the fan. Actually, they have the clearance they need, and they don't wish and caught as you put it in. Now, I actually had a little bit of a struggle with this. First it in, and it wouldn't seat at the back, then it wouldn't seat at the so what I ended up doing was sort of a 50-50. I kind of place it in and push one side. So yeah, this part here, we pushed that in just a little bit, and then I pulled it at the back, which located back ports, enabled the front ports to sit in, and then the whole thing was in. Now, don't forget about that little cable at the side. You need to make sure that has clearance. Mine actually snagged, then I lifted it, and I pulled the cable back out, and everything was totally fine. You're going to have all of these issues, these problems, probably worse. It's probably going to take you maybe up to, you know, between 1 and 2, depending on how confident you are, how fast you move. Just make sure you check everything. Main thing is alignment. Take your time. See, I still haven't done it at this, and that's why I'm going through it, because this is sort of reality. It will take time. Your cable there, once it's free, you can ensure that it sits in, and there we go. It just drops in nicely, aligns beautifully, and then you feel happy about it. Now at the back, it actually snaps in, and it's absolutely fine. And need to, and it doesn't snap in, then just checking this bit at the back, added this in. You just need to pull it and it will snap down. Then play on and everything is fine. Again, double check, double check, double check. Say enough through this. Look over everything, and then you should move on to the next stage. Now for this next part, I'm basically going to just do a sort of, You can do it, but you don't have to do it. You can grab the hard drive, you can actually place it in advance. Just pop out the back part again. It will come in and out quite easily now that you've manipulated the plastic. And just pop the hard drive into its allocating slot. Once you get it in there, it will seem quite loose, but do not stress, do not worry. If you have your little mounting screw, which I don't because I've taken this thing apart so many times, you just put that screw back in once gone from this stage. But for me, I don't, and for the sake of and just in case you've lost your screw, just get a bit of paper towel, fold it over a couple of times, and put it between the drive and the case. Now the hard drive will get hot, but it won't come close to ignition point for the paper, so it's actually very safe. This is just like a quick fix or you know, a DIY fix, but it works. It's as simple as that. It's cheap as a fiv, and it does work. If you find that when you place it under there, it's not enough, you know, it's not enough tension, just fold it over, put it under. It will compress nicely. Again, not dangerous, but do it at your own risk. You have to, fortunately. So once we've done that, we will progress next into the further screwing part, and that's what we're going to focus on. You can always use double-sided tape if you're wondering, yes, but I don't really want to go that. But you should still have your mounted bracket. Mine, again, is a very my PlayStation, and I'll show you that in the next video where I basically get to a 4TB drive. So I hope you're enjoying the video so far. Let's continue on. Haha. Go ahead and put all of your screws back into your cage in order. If you remember the order, check your phone, or if you don't, it shouldn't be too critical, but it always helps to reseat the screw with original hole. So after this, once this is all done, we're pretty much done, guys. So now we just want to look at the Wi-Fi antenna for your PlayStation. That's going to be pretty much the next thing to be located on, and then we're going to be focusing on the casing. And seriously, we are so close to it is crazy. Go ahead, flip that thing over. You can see she's still missing the power pack, but the first thing we need to do is take that Wi-Fi and fit that back in nicely. Now it pops on very easily by hand, a little Lego does, and just take your time again, pop that. See, I didn't get it first time because I've got big clumsy hands, not really holy hands, but you'll be able to pop that thing back on if you just take your time and put it over to one side. Remember to move your cables away, and then go ahead and your power pack. Basically, a lot of things like Xbox, they have these things externally, this internally, so you actually see how small the PlayStation is when you take this apart. It's only the half that does the work. So make sure the power pack in the correct orientation. Your cables which plug in on the left. You've got your prongs which also plug in on the bottom left. So I'm just grabbing that little cable there, and I'm making sure that it's the right one to pop in, because you actually got one at the rear back. There we go, that one there. So you don't want to get confused or stretch anything. So take your time, and it will pop in nicely. You've also got your little electronics. Remember to put those in. So this will go first. You're just going to want to push fit that at the right orientation with this as well. That should push in. I'm struggling a little bit. Go on, get in there. Time today. And there we go. That's pretty much in there. Now you can tell which one this is in because it's got two kinks that have been put in as yeah. And that lines up very nicely as you'll see the circuit board. And of course you can see with using common sense that that is pretty much the same with the rest of the cables. So we'll flip that thing and you can see there's another little cable there. Remember not to get that kink when you put the battery pack in, but you can put that one in right now. I'm doing. Take a second. There, I'm spinning it around. It's just not. Yeah, these things only ever go to one. These are made to go together once and not be taken apart. Basically, you know, only wants you to buy it and then replace. But if you watch these sort of videos, you can take them apart, and they will do that. But yeah, they don't together as well as you'd like. So we've done that bottom part, and now the part is just going to pop together. Again, be as careful as you can, use as little as you can, and just be very systematic. Piece by piece by piece, it will all go together. Double checking everything, making sure that everything aligns, and it will go together very, very nice. So I'm really focusing on this middle part here, and of course now I'm putting down the circuit board, and it's actually sitting there very naturally. 3 location lugs. They're like little pins which sit up, and the circuit board has little holes actually sit inside of that. So before you've even put the screws in, it sits its rightful place. So as you can see here on the screw, and I'm just going to just going to basically screw the little circle. So we're going to speed through this very quickly. There we go, la-di-da-di-da. That's all done. Now, to get this final cable actually pushed down on the right corner, and that lifted it up just enough to give me enough clearance to push in this next cable. Remember, everything is kind of like, every product has like a characteristic. This, you need to do little things like that. You push and you prod and you use little tools, and everyone has a little method. But anyway, from using guidance, you'll be able to get everything together nicely and in time. The key is always coming back to don't rush, take your time and open. This middle cable here has a little lip thing. Pops up, you put the cable in, and then you push it back down. That secures it. The rest of the kind of like push fit in or push fit down. So the middle one's in nicely there. I'm pretty happy about that. Now we're moving on to top one. I believe there might be one more little cable as well. Just moving it around, just double checking everything. So I'm basically making sure that it's not going to snag and it's actually oriented correctly. And there we go, I'm trying to push it in. A little bit of a struggle. So there's a little blue tab on top of the cable. So instead of applying pressure to it, I applied pressure to the tab. And that actually spelled the force. Now we're actually moving down to this little tiny one here. It's very long and thin. And just check other cables are out of the way, because we're getting very, very close to reapplying the power in. That's actually the thing which converts to 40 if you're in the UK or in Singapore, or the 120 volts to whatever it needs in the PlayStation. That's something you can always Google and double check on. Basically the conversion from your AC to your DC convert. So again, I'm just checking all of these cables, do the same. I'm taking time, and I'm just trying to explain all this stuff. So the final cable is this little long thin one. That just needs to locate in. I'm probably going to grab the little blue tab one. Yeah, there we go. So I'm just grabbing the little on this one because it's so fragile. You want to take your time and just kind of push down while pushing forwards, but gently increasing pressure slowly, and it will just pop in there. And we're almost there. There we go. Nope. Okay, almost. We'll try it again. So I guess I kind of lost grip there. So these things are very fiddly. You can go ahead some tweezers, but there we go. It's in by hand. Very nice. The main thing with this video is obviously to be able to do everything with the minimal of tools and materials needed. So of course we're onto the power brick. We're making sure the station matches up. So just looking at it there, we can see the port, we can see the pin port. There's like two snake teeth pins where the power comes from the mains and goes into this thing. Just plugged in the left side. I did that even without looking. I just kind of helped my way, and here we go. It's nicely seated in there, and then we're going to go back to the side. There we go. Again, check everything. I give it a little spin for fun. It's all nice, flat, and level. This final port needs to go in. There we go. Kind of turn the place for you. Pop that little bad boy in. That is happy. We are almost home. Seriously, it's just down to casing now. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the last part. We're now at the point where basically everything is back together, and the next focus is of course the Wi-Fi antenna and locating that back. So let's spin it around with the camera and just show you here. So at the bottom right here from the fan on the left, there's several locating lugs. There's about 2 lugs there. 1, 2, and a little screw point at the top. We're just going to put that back in, and we're pretty much done with that, and then we should be moving on to the final casing. So we're finally in the home stretch here. We've got the bottom casing here, and we've got to align it up with the case. So we've got the 3 screws at the back there, the 3 screws on the actual body, and we've got a couple of teeth on the back. And this all needs to be aligned. So flip it over from the orientation you've just seen, take it from an angle, and you're going to want to kind of sit it down it will seat itself in, and it should kind of drop in. If you have some struggle with this, just kind of wiggle it around, take it out, put it back, and try and push it in nicely. You might hear some clicks and such. That's it re-securing itself. Just double check it all, and you'll be okay. For the final bit on the top side, we're now onto the larger section of the covering. Now there's one screw on here, and this is a bit of a wiggle. Just try and fit it to the back, let it down, and it should snap into place. In the middle part, there is a screw you can actually take out and put down the top casing. I don't do it to allow me to basically remove it easier, and it's one less thing to do, but you can do it if you so wish. Now, the screw I've just picked up there, that was one of the screws that that we took out earlier, which holds in the pack. You can always go back and double check on that, and if you like, but I didn't want that because I basically I want to be able to take this thing apart for more further maintenance into the future. Now the final part is going to be this top cover. Just grab that thing. This thing basically just slides on. No screws, nothing. It's all just pop and now I put that on pretty nicely, but that was like the third attempt. It's a little bit of a pain, but with a little bit of trial and error and practice, you will get it on. That's it. It's basically done. I hope you really enjoy it. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a share. I know it's not perfect. A lot of the image was sort of very bright, very dark. I have the equipment to adjust that for the future video, but I really hope you enjoyed it. Check everything that you've done. Remember, just test it, take your time. I've really enjoyed making this for you, and a huge, gigantic shout out for my bro, Jack Armstrong. This video was done for your bros. So the next video coming will be the 4-byte upgrade, where this cover on the top left will actually be removed and replaced with a custom one for a size PC unit. Anyway, from me, SGN, aka Chris Armstrong, thanks for watching. Goodbye.